this doctor, Jeffrey Swanson, he's out of North Carolina. He said, I said, make it make sense to me. He was just like, you can take 10 people that suffer from bipolar disorder or schizophrenia. He's like, you can hand them a firearm. They'll go their whole life without hurting anybody or themselves. He's like, you could come home one night and be having a bad day and catch your wife in bed with somebody, or maybe somebody cut you off on the freeway. And he's like, and snap. Right. So, and that really kind of put it in perspective for me. So I was like, I see, I get it now. Like, there's no such thing as Minority Report. We can't see the future, you know. So
that's where a lot of the stigma comes from, right? It's not necessarily the random act of violence, right? It's the mental health, right? Oh, this person was bipolar. This person was depressed. Oh, they're going to be a mass shooter. Blah blah blah. We have to keep them away from guns, right? That's where red flag laws come from, and all that other stuff. But that's not the reality, right? According to Jeremy Wiskritchen, I can't even pronounce his last name, or Jeff Wiskritchen, right?
Jake,
one of your
Jake,
Jake, yeah. That's one of the ones he talked about in the documentary with Connie Ray that they did last year. Connie's daughter, a former U.S. Marine, committed suicide, and she was, and one of the things that her and Jake talked about is Connie blamed the gun, right? And it took her a while to understand that it wasn't the gun, it was the mental health, right? It was the depression, and that her daughter didn't have an out. They didn't have anybody that can reach out to because of the stigma surrounding, the depression, the bipolar, and all these other issues. That the moment a person reaches out, right, with the duty to report issues that come with psychologists and psychiatrists and therapists, that the moment you reach out to them and you go, oh, I'm a gun owner, and they're like, oh, you're a gun owner. Okay, here's a red flag, right? I have to report this now. You're a danger to yourself automatically, just right off the bat, because this person has depression or bipolar or whatever. And that's one of the reasons that people don't reach out, is because of this stigma, because on the back end of reaching out, there's so much that happens on the other side of that wall that it scares people away from it. Going back also to the story out of Hawaii recently with the Navy officer, he was homesick. That's it, homesick. That's it, just homesick, and saw a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist, he had a few, took a prescription antidepressant for a while, and he was fine. But the state of Hawaii said, "Oh no, you can't own a firearm now," and he had to go to court and sue them, and thankfully he won. But most people don't win.
Right. Some people don't even know. We've had a couple guests on our show that found out, like, randomly that they couldn't buy a firearm, like, later on in life over an incident that happened, right? And they're just like, what? We have one guest that was just on our show that was in the military. The military talked him into going and getting help in New York. And, basically he went away for 2 weeks, got the help he needed, came back, was perfectly fine. Got out of the military 2 years later, went to buy a firearm as a civilian and got denied. And he was at first like confused. He was like, wait a second, it must be a mistake or something. Maybe because I moved. And then, the crazy part about the episode is I asked him, well, when you got back into the military, like when you were ready, when you were healthy again and you were out of your crisis, were you around firearms? He's like, I was around rocket launchers.
Here, you can have a thing that can blow up a city, but not a single firearm. That's just too dangerous.
2 weeks later,
I'm just saying that if I had a rocket launcher and the ability to blow up things, I would not be nearly as depressed as I am. that's a hell of an outlet.
It just shows you how silly it can be, right? Like, here's somebody that we actually were like, look, protect us. You protect our freedom. You protect our country. Here's these weapons. You're free to use them while you're in the military. He gets out and he goes to buy, I think he said I was going to buy a 380 or something like that. He's like, he thought, no, this got to be a mistake. Like, it's got to be a mistake, and he wouldn't have known. So, I mean, I think about a lot of people probably just never even go and check. We had Sandy Richardson, same story. She wouldn't even call herself a gun person. But when she found out that she lost her right, that aggravated her, and they messed with the wrong person because, like, she knows the system. She's from the healthcare system in New York. The New York Safe Act is the worst, New York is one of the states where I warn anybody that's in the firearms industry, or that holds this 2A near and dear to their heart. Be very careful with where you go and who you say what to, because the New York State Act is not safe at all. It's a barrier to entry to get help, and they will put you on.
Oh yeah, I mean that's
one of the. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, and say that I mean that's one of the things, as a combat veteran, like that's one of those big things why we don't ever go talk to anybody.
Throw out your jacket real quick for him.
Real quick, I was a Ranger, Special Forces. I wound up a trunk monkey for a little while. Contractor and things. Did a bunch of work in Afghanistan, Iraq, across Africa, Southeast Asia, a few other places. And
decorated. Just
yeah. But the reason that we don't go talk to anybody, right? The reason that we all just live with it, we all sit there alone and things, is because the whole time in the back of your mind, it's just gnawing at you. Like, but if you talk to someone and you talk to that wrong person and you say, hey, I'm having all these nightmares. I occasionally I have these bouts of severe anxiety, being around people, or I'm afraid of things, when I'm driving, whatever. If you say any of that stuff, you're worried that then they're going to go, okay, well, now you don't get guns because you have PTSD, and so we're taking your guns away. And that's the last thing you want to have happen. I mean, you spent your entire life to that point around guns, handling guns, using them ostensibly for the people who are now going to point guns at you and say, give up your guns, and you don't want to deal with that. So you just suffer in silence and alone, which leads to the 22 a day statistic, because we're stuck alone without being able to talk to anybody.
Yeah. What is it now? It's 4.5 or 5 times as many global war on terror veterans have committed suicide than actually died in combat.
Yeah, it's right around there.
Yeah, it's a horrible number.